snow and flurry was when I first saw snow before, like December came around and stuff. But
Well,
Oklahoma,
well, like
the,
if you ever come up to Canada, we can get snow as early as late September. So
dude,
I'm not
fuck.
saying that's a great part about where we are, but cool. I think we're ready to go.
Cool.
If you are.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm sitting down with a Oklahoma City homie of mine, Skyler from the band OMEN. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Of course. Thank you for having me.
And for the folks at home who might not know who you are, can you just give me a proper intro of where you're based, the bands you're a part of, and how you're known in the music community?
Yeah, definitely. My name is Skyler. I front in a band called OMEN from Oklahoma City, and I am based out of Oklahoma City. Yep.
And I didn't intentionally wear this shirt, but it's what we're doing for the podcast
Yeah,
for
no,
today.
you're cool. It's
Um, yeah, Skylar and I actually met originally back in November, I guess. You know,
mhm.
I've told a couple of people this, and I'm sure a couple people listening feel the same way. Is like November feels like even just January feels like years ago as far as
You-
how
yes.
crazy long this whole pandemic has felt. But
Yeah.
to stay on topic, we met at Snow and Flare Fest back in
Yes.
November 2019. Omen was definitely one of the bands that like really caught my eye immediately. I was very excited to put your guys' set out, and just like the 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 amount of regional bands kind of from your area that came up and that we got to film for the first time was very very cool, and I'm sure that we'll touch on that. Um,
Yeah.
but Skylar, as you know, I always like to get people's like where they came from, the path that brought them into hardcore heavier music. So can you tell me kind of the first kind of formative albums, bands, records that brought you to doing this podcast here today?
Yeah. So when I was like probably like I want to say like 11 or 12, man, like I remember my cousin showing me Pray for Plagues by Bring Me the Horizon. It was just like, dude, this is like the coolest shit. You know what I mean? Like just because like it was just so like for like my like for instance like if I play like like metal in front of like my grandmother or my mom or somebody, like they're just like it's not like they don't like it, like they're not drawn to it, but for me like it like pleases my ears, like the sound. And I don't know, I've just always been like very fond of that type of like music. Like my mom used to listen to like a lot of like Shinedown and like Linkin Park and stuff like that. Like I remember we have a station here called the Cat, which is like the Oklahoma like rock station. And I remember like my mom and my grandma like taking me to school and that's what they would be listening to. You know what I mean? But once metal kind of came into the picture, that was when they were kind of like, yo, like what the fuck? Because they like hear like all of these crazy
Where's the
noises.
singing?
Yeah, right. They hear all these crazy noises and they're just like these people, like I don't understand what they're saying. And I'm like, it's so fucking like it's so sick though. Um actually, so when I was in like middle school, a lot of like the kids that I like kind of came up around, they were a little bit older than me. Um and I used to live down the street from a kid named Tyler, and his brother played in like a Christian metal band. And funny to say it, Josh, our bassist, fronted that band. So like that was how I came into contact with him. And so him and I have always been kind of acquainted over the years, but we've like kind of grown like a really good friendship. Like once he started like coming in like to contact with me about like Omen and like because he plays in another band called The Tooth, if you've heard of them, which they're yeah they're pretty sick. So yeah, that was kind of like my first introduction to like hardcore shows. is when I started like going to we had a venue out here called the Conservatory, and that was where a lot of the shows like on my upbringing through like Oklahoma hardcore at the time, um that was where like I was introduced to that. So kind of like drifting off, because like there's always been like that split between like the metal and like the hardcore scene kind of, you know what I mean? So this was more of like the metal scene, but then I got introduced to the hardcore scene. Um, and I started like going around more of that realm of music. I was in a band called Hecatoncres back when I was like, uh, I want to say like 14. Um, and that was when I started was kind of moving towards like that area. And that was initially how I met like I am. Um, I met people from a band called Heretic as well. Like we were just kind of jumping back and forth, and uh, so that was kind of from there, and then on is how like I've just kind of like stuck with this like the hardcore scene out here. Just from, you know, like making friends through the years when I was like getting older, and you know, playing music and being active with like my scene and stuff like that. And you know, uh it's crazy like how much it's changed, because I was witnessing all of it at such a young age, you know what I mean? And now being like 21 years old, I'm like seeing it from like the perspective that a lot of like, you know, my friends that are like close to like being in their 30s now, like what they were seeing it as. And it's crazy because like there's so many like new kids being introduced to hardcore, and like a lot of us out here like we like, not to sound conceited, but like we mosh hard. We like don't really like pay attention sometimes, you know what I mean? And so it's like I don't like, I've noticed like there will be kids who like come in and they get like freaked out because like there's kids like just fucking like, you know, getting like too close to them and being like too like aggressive or something during it. And but like we always like do our best to like make them like welcome after the fact. And I think it's something that is like needed, because like a lot of these kids like you don't really necessarily know what they're going through, so they could already be kind of somewhat like nervous stepping into like that environment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always like obviously there's people that have made those parodies for like, oh, how to mosh, and it's like a Jared Alonji video or some shit like
Yeah,
that. But like generally speaking, you usually, I think a lot of people will find out about a show and they don't know it's a hardcore show. It's just like, oh, there's some local concert that I'm gonna go to with a friend of mine, and then they witness it as like it's something that's so foreign to them, so just like out there, and it's either it lights a fire in your brain and that never kind of goes off,
yeah,
or you're just like, this shit is too weird, I am out.
yeah,
But
yeah, definitely.
no, I definitely agree that there is, you know, I think because there is no necessarily like welcome package when it comes to like going to a hardcore show, it
Right,
is, because it is community driven, we need to do our part for like, hey, did I smack you in the face? That's it. I'm sorry. Hey,
right,
I'm Spencer or whatever it is. Um,
right, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think.
I
Sorry, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say like a lot of it just kind of like jumps back onto like I always like try my best to like you know, give a warm welcoming to the kids as like the people did for me at like the age that I was, you know what I mean? Because I was like, I remember like personally being like, yo, like this is very like cool. Like this is something that I'm like super interested in, but also like what the fuck is happening in front of me? Like there's like all of these kids just like moving in like such weird ways, and like people are beating the fuck out of each other, and like just like stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like kind of touching base back on like the welcoming package, like there's really not, you know what I mean? And I feel like you have those assholes through like hardcore that like they like they like intentionally like go out of their way to like be I guess like rude would be like the right thing to say. But like don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of being that way to people, but also like, you know, there's like kids that I'll meet and like, you know, you can tell they're nervous, and I'm like, dude, like this is the next show happening. Send them a link on Facebook, or like talk to them about like bands that they should check out from like the area and stuff like that. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
just
I think we've all been caught on like, I think you and I are probably alike where it's like, even if I'm having an off day, I had a shitty day at work, I'm having some family stuff going on, I'll still go to the show. And yeah, like I'll be the first to admit that I've allowed that to be the way that I've maybe, you know, like shrugged off a conversation or whatever.
oh,
But
definitely.
I think yeah, there needs to be just like a heightened awareness. Like if there's someone that you don't recognize in the room, like actually going across and being like, "Yo, what's up? I'm so and so. Like, who are you excited to see tonight?" Or whatever it is, whatever
Yeah,
the
right.
hot topic
And
is.
that's just something that I've also like kind of picked up as I'm getting like a little bit older. Like back when I was probably like 17 or 18, like I would not have said that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Totally.
Just because of like my mentality, like I was just so like I didn't give a fuck. That's like the best way to put it, which like I'm trying to like not be that way now, but yeah, definitely. I think it definitely like makes people feel, less nervous, and it makes them like want to come back because like that's how you like give exposure to like the music that like you're involved in. You know what I mean? That also gives them something to listen to at home, to show their friends and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I think like the 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 action of doing that separates hardcore from any other genre in the sense of like it is community, like it's fueled by community because you know like maybe I'm talking a little bit out of my ass here, but like if you're in an EDM space and you can just go to like a big EDM festival or share a bunch of
Mhm.
like artists in that genre, but there's not really anything as far as like, oh, I'm going to go to show to see this, but I also have a ton of friends that I know, and it's just this like clout chasing um, propaganda. So
Yeah.
no, it makes me happy because if you're 21, I'm 27, and the fact that you're have that mindset, and I know people who are older than me that still have it twisted.
Yeah.
That makes me stoked. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
because it's a constant thing where I'm thinking about like, the world that we live in. Like hardcore is definitely not the at the it could be totally different in 10 years time, but like going to shows is obvious. There's definitely like if you're thinking about the golden era of certain hardcore bands and things like that, there's definitely a drop, but there still is like new kids who are in that like 14, 15, 16 age gap, even younger. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
someone could be listening to Have Heart and they're 10 years old. That'd be sick.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but people actually discovering this, all these different genres, and actually like being a part of it at such a young age. Like, I've definitely seen it come full circle where I'll be at a show and I'm just like, yo, like, what are you doing like during the day tomorrow? I was like, I'm going to school. Like,
Yeah,
I'm still
right.
like 17. I'm like,
Right.
whoa, I've definitely like come through the ringer on this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about just where you're based because I think I'm a big fan of being the underdog kind of area for a lot of scenes because I think a lot of places like California or New York or even Florida just have like a little bit of a advantage when it comes to where they are and the history of how hardcore grew in those areas, and Oklahoma City, like kind of before I would say like if you ask me like, oh, what hardcore from like Oklahoma are you a fan of, I probably couldn't give you an answer,
Yeah.
but it was through things like Promcore, and then obviously going to Snow and Flurry and meeting a surplus of different bands and people that was
Yeah.
like, wow, you guys have like a really like like thriving and like dedicated scene. So talk to me about just like hardcore in Oklahoma as a whole, and how you have kind of how people have made it their own in some aspects.
Um, in all honesty, man, like the scene here the past couple years is like it's really like slowed down. Um, when like probably like 2 years ago tops was when it was like in its prime. We had so many fucking bands coming out of here, dude. Like, 16, 17-year-old kids starting bands. And that was like something that was like really fucking cool to see. Um, but now it's just kind of died down a little bit. There's not necessarily like a split anymore between like metal and hardcore. We all kind of like collide. You know what I mean? Like personally for Omen, like if we get asked, I mean, we played a punk show one time, like, and it was fucking sick. You know what I mean? And like it's not necessarily like divided at this point, like in time. I think it's just like like people fade off. People start doing their own shit as they get older, and they start kind of like going their own way. And like a lot of my friends like that I was like around like 2 years ago, we were going to shows like every week or every fucking other day. You know what I mean? Like now, like they're just kind of like off in their own corner, like doing their own shit, and it's sick. Like I fully support that, but now you have like this like next generation of like Oklahoma hardcore starting to like kind of fade in a little bit. And it's really cool because like, we as like where we were a while ago, like now we get to see that like come into full effect. And like I think that's really cool seeing like young kids like come out and they're just having like the time of their life. Like that's something that like it's like a it's like you're handing it down. You know what I mean?
Passing the
Like
torch. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Like not to say that I or like any of my friends are going anywhere anytime soon,
Right. Yeah.
but like I mean, as time goes on, like there's probably gonna be like a day in my life where I'm like, fuck, dude, like I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like I'm tired. But right now, like if I can be there to help out as best as I can and support my community as best as I can, like I'll do it wholeheartedly. I uh I love Oklahoma. I've never really had anything bad to say about my scene. Um, but they like I'm really just going back on the fact like I'm really glad that it's not like so split anymore. You know what I mean? Like the metal kids used to hate the hardcore kids and the hardcore kids hated the metal kids, and now it's not really like it's really just like like who gives a fuck now, and that's sick to see. For like the bands that we have right now though, um we have a band here called Strangled. I don't know if you've heard of them before.
No, but definitely
They
check them out. Yeah.
Yeah, so Soto is one of my like really good friends. He has worked with Omen for like since like we started pretty much. And he started Strangled just as like I think it was just as like a side project, but they like released like an EP and like immediately blew the fuck up. Like they put up a video, so they released an EP and then they went quiet and then they released another single with a music video, and that video I think now has like over like 100,000 views on it,
Oh,
which is like
okay.
insane. And they play like a lot of local shows. They like I think their first tour was with like fucking like Body Snatcher and
Oh,
like Great American Ghost. Yeah, like
crazy.
crazy, crazy shit. And so like seeing one of my like really good friends, like, he's fucking stoked about what he's doing and stuff that he wrote. That's cool. Strangled's a really good band from here. Give Way, fucking awesome ass band, dude. And some of my like really close friends as well. Um,
Great, great band.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. It was funny because like some of us we were starting like a little project like during like right before like quarantine like really hit, and then it just kind of stopped. But I think it'll be cool if we pick back up on that.
Oh, yeah, because I did see it was like you guys posted some photos. I'm like, this is like
Yeah,
giveaway with Skyler, but
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
what else is going on here? So I don't know if
yeah,
you can, if you're at
yeah.
liberty
I
to
mean,
talk about it, but
it was really just like a like I went up to Tulsa one day and I was just like, let's fucking jam, dude. So we like started kind of jamming a little bit, and we wrote I think like two tracks right before like we just like stopped, like just because like I wasn't trying to like travel as much like with like COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um and like I know that they're all busy with like working and stuff still, so which I mean we'll still touch base every now and then, but hopefully once this shit clears up is when we can start like kind of putting stuff back together.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was something we were doing. uh I'm trying to think. You remember OTM?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So OTM, they were fucking one of the like I think like greatest bands of their time in Oklahoma hardcore. They like were so like their sound was just like so different from anything that we've like ever had come out of here. You know what I mean? Like, and so that was something that I was just like when they first put out the EP that they did, I was like, whoa, like that's like nuts, you know? And then yeah, like Colton, like my fucking best friend, he was like playing bass for him for a little bit. um Another band that was out of Oklahoma that was fucking awesome was Sledge.
Okay.
I don't know, Sledge is fucking a badass band, dude. um
And
and
maybe we can, you mentioned, Giveaway, OTM, Omen. Um, as far as how things came together for Snow and Flurry Fest, was it like one of those bands got asked, and then you're like, hey, we can bring up some more bands if you want, and you guys all rolled together, or
yeah, yeah, it
what's the behind the scenes behind that?
yeah, it kind of went like I think OTM and Giveaway were like, so if my memory jogs me correctly, OTM, Giveaway, and Omen were gonna do something. We were gonna do a little run up to Snow and Flurry, but
Oh,
then because like someone had been talking to like Colton or Laramie, and they were talking to me about, hey, does Omen want to play this? Like we're both playing it. I was like, dude, fuck yeah, probably. Let me talk to them. We were all cool with it, and then once that, I think like that was when like because Snow and Flurry was like right after Omen like got put on 11/26. So then that was when we like we were told that we were gonna do a run with I Am. And so that was how that kind of like we were like, oh well,
right. Because it was I Am, you guys, and Frost Coffin
yeah,
was the
and
tour, right? Yeah.
Heavens Died did a couple days with us too.
Oh, right. But they just didn't play that fest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They didn't play that. But yeah, I think that's what initially happened was we were gonna do something with OTM and Giveaway, and then plans didn't go as they were going to. And so we, aside from like the 5 days we ended up doing, I think that tour with I Am was like 2.5 weeks, if I'm correct. It was a while, dude. We went all the way up to like New York. That shit was crazy.
Yeah. Was that your
Crazy.
first time out that way as well?
Yeah, so the last two tours that Omen's did before that, they were all on the West Coast. And I mean, I've been to California a couple times. But like I had never been like that far. Like I'd never really been anywhere east aside from like Louisville, and that was for like LDB, but Louisville, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, yeah. So going to the East Coast, the best way, especially in November, it was so cold. I remember it like being just so cold. Like every time I would wake up or anytime I was like going to get some food, like I'm just like bundled up in like 3 layers of fucking clothes,
Oh,
dude.
dude, it's like touring. Uh, really, anytime in the, call it the winter months,
Yeah,
in those kind of areas that actually get snow,
yeah,
on the heavy is, I commend those bands because driving is just 10 times harder. You're just, you know a lot more dependent on just warmth and things of
yeah,
that nature. Um, yeah, like shows up here in Canada essentially like fizzle out into nothing. Like obviously, no COVID in the mix, just because bands are like, what, I'm gonna drive like even just 2 hours from Edmonton to Calgary, and it's
yeah,
just like
right.
black ice the entire way. Like fat chance. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember it was snowing in Minneapolis too during Snow and Flurry.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it was super crazy snow.
No, no, but like it
Re-
was just there, you
Straight
know.
up, like I think we had we definitely had way more snow in Calgary. So when we got there and there was a little bit, we thought it was like, oh, we're getting a little bit of a break. But it might have
Yeah.
been freaking out a couple people who were coming from, other parts of the country for sure.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, because I mean, it was still like it was really cold here when we left for that run, but it wasn't like I hadn't seen any snow yet. So I think like Snow and Flurry was when I first saw snow before, like December came around and stuff. But
Well,
Oklahoma,
well, like
the,
if you ever come up to Canada, we can get snow as early as late September. So
dude,
I'm not
fuck.
saying that's a great part about where we are, but yeah, the Scope 2 year anniversary, it snowed that day, and it's like we had Dare and No Right, who are like just California kids, essentially being like there's a video of Anaya just packing snow together, just in this giant snowball, just like a 4-year-old.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, it's crazy when it pops up because sometimes it'll just like it comes out of nowhere. Like, there's been times because Oklahoma's weather is just so like mixed up, dude. Like, it's like sunny outside right now, and like 2 hours from now, it could be raining. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, there's been times when it's been like January and you'll wake up one day getting ready for work and it's just fucking snowing outside. It's just kind of out of the random a little bit, but yeah,
Calgary is interesting because we are so close to the mountains, so we get these things called Chinooks. So it's like the air pressure coming over the mountains can be like crazy amounts of snow in the middle of January, and then it'll just be uh, like everything will be melted for like 2 days, and then it's right back into snow time. So it's very strange out here.
yeah, no, definitely,
Obviously, you can't like predict some of those things. Like some people get like the headache just before they're like, I think a Chinook is coming, but
yeah,
it's just the way things go. So we were kind of touching on Snow and Flurry Fest, and I mentioned before you guys had Promcore out there, and there's definitely off of the little bit that I've heard from people like Joe Hardcore, who are like big time promoters who have been doing big festivals like This Is Hardcore. There used to be like just a small amount of people who are doing these festivals, and now a lot of people and their grandmas are putting on like some kind of either 1 day fest or 2 day fest or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
in their small regional city. So, what's your take on just like regional fests, of any size? And, is there too much of that going on? Is there like plenty of space for people? Um, I definitely, when I honestly never thought about like going to Oklahoma City for hardcore, but like when I saw that you guys had like
Yeah.
promcore, and in the videos that Sunny posted the first year, I was like, oh, like there's some really cool bands from here, and like
Yeah.
people are going off. So like just talk to me about that thought process for you.
Yeah, so the first like fest that I ever went to in Oklahoma was a fest called Flyover.
Right.
That was a fest that came before Promcore because Promcore were kind of like I can't remember when they stopped doing Promcore, but that was something that they just kind of like resurrected. Aaron, the guy who promotes it, he had been like teasing it for a while, and then it was like boom, like here's all of these like badass bands that I have playing. I think before the this year, because we played the first year. I can't remember who like the headliners were. It just seems like so long ago, but
I'll try and find it while you're talking here.
yeah. But yeah, the first year of prom corps was really cool, and then so was the second year because it was just like it's very you get like all those people who like come like dressed up like they're going to prom. They're just like having fun. I think that's so neat. Uh, but yeah, I remember like so like flyover and prom corps like those are pretty like packed fests for like the area that they're in.
Mhm.
I remember my first year going to LDB, and I was just like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? Like, there's so many people here. um, that was the craziest fest I think I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just this past LDB, right?
yeah, so the first time I went, it was like very like I was like the whole time like I was just like looking around because like there's so much like happening. You know
Sure.
what I mean? This last like the year before, I wasn't really like active while I was there. I was just really like watching the bands and stuff. Um, this year though, like me and Colton, like we were like front and center like the entire time for every band. Uh,
You were like pretty much side stage for the entire like absence of mindset.
dude,
Because I've
yeah,
watched that one a fair amount of times. I'm like, there's my guy. Just
yeah. Yeah, no, that was so much fun, man. Absence of Mind, Hangman, dude, Hangman was fucking dope, dude. It was very neat to watch. Yeah, no, this year it, like I remember like um Knocked Loose just like popped out of nowhere and like did something. They played a set and that was very cool to watch too. Um it's just so cool, like I feel like I'm getting so off topic, but
no, you're
I'll
good.
say this real quick. It's so cool seeing all of these people like from all over the country just like form into one place for one weekend for music. Like it's the coolest shit. You know what I mean? Um, I've always thought that that was just such a. It's so like not only to the promoters but to the bands too. Like they like it's admirable. Like that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Like just like a weekend. Well, there's a lot more that goes into like music for me personally, anyways. But like, like a whole weekend of nothing but just like being around your friends and just like live music. You know what I mean? And just like having a blast. I think it's fun. Um, a very very cool experience. I think if every state was doing fests, I would try my hardest to go to every single one. Honestly, even if I was seeing the same bands that I saw, a month or two beforehand, like
Right. Yeah.
not only because like music, but like traveling. You know what I mean? I think it's cool to like you get to like explore areas and like go through places that you've never really been possibly. I think that's one of the coolest things. I know a lot of people fly in for fest, but me and my friends when we go we like driving because it's like the
Yeah.
scenery is all something cool to experience. Yeah, I mean, I think now like if so they canceled prom core the other day because I think Aaron was just gonna try and see like how long it could play out because it was booked in May and then he pushed it back to October, but he ended up like canceling it the other day, which everybody kind of expected that, you
It was
know.
it was either like, okay, are we gonna cancel it like, prior? Because it was the same thing with like Wild Rose up here. It was like they just canceled it and we're like, we're not gonna even look at like trying to pick a later date or things like that until just things play out. And I think
Yeah,
everyone like watching or listening is like could have never thought something of this global impact to be like, oh, yep, we're into the fall pretty much here. And but
yeah,
yeah, it's tough. I feel for people like Aaron as far as like trying to be like still wanting to give some people some hope in a very dark time. But yeah,
yeah, which I think that's what it was. I think he, and I'm not speaking for him, but
sure, yeah,
just if it was like I really do think like it was that like he was just like maybe it'll push out somehow, like let's have like because there's a lot of like hope lost in this time right now. Like there's just like so much shit happening in the world that is it's like, and we're witnessing a piece of history right now, like we're living it, you know what I mean? And so like I think a little bit of hope can go a long way for people, going back to what we were talking about earlier. There's probably like a lot of like kids like freshly introduced to hardcore that were stoked about prom core and
yeah,
you know that like they're like, oh, like may, you know, possibly like this is gonna fucking happen, and then it gets canceled, and it's like a bummer, you know what I mean? But it's for the best, obviously. Because personally, like if it still would have happened, I probably wouldn't have gone, uh, just from my personal health, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It is tough to be like even when shows come back. Whether that's early 2021. Like, I don't want to say anything later than that because I feel like that's like that's very dark for me personally to be like, oh, are you serious?
yeah,
But
yeah,
whenever they do come back, I think there will be a number of people who maybe don't jump at the gun to immediately go to a show because maybe they're waiting for a vaccine to become publicly
yeah,
available. Maybe they're just like, I'm just doing this for my grandma who's like, she's at risk, or
yeah.
I am paranoid, whatever it is. I Yeah, it's a crazy time, dude. It's
Ooh,
like I'm I have a little bit um of hope when it comes to there's like new bands, coming out the gate with new records, and people are writing and trying to keep this the spirit of hardcore going. But ultimately, I think the thing that really fans the flames of that is when we all come together and go wild for this very weird kind of music at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, because one of the most specific things about like hardcore that like draws everybody in is the performance of it. It's like the feeling of like being at a show, you know what I mean? And so like I mean, I'm all for like the online sets and stuff like that. Uh we got asked to do one, but like I don't, it's just it's not like the same, and I'm for it, you know what I mean? But like I can't like, I don't know. I can't like play like I'm just like in front of like all of my friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that like kind of like just like rubbed me off about it was like, and I've been watching like one of the first ones that I watched was the Code Orange stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I like watched their live stream. They put a lot of work into their stuff though when they were doing that, which was really cool to see. But I mean, is like I support it wholeheartedly. But like I just don't think like
I
I
do
would.
agree that certain bands at a certain level, like, yeah, like they are at a certain there's a certain desirability from the masses. It'd be like if Metallica did like a live stream set, like tons of people would be like, yeah, I'm for that.
Yeah,
But they're like, for every single local band to be like, oh, we need to play in front of people and this is the closest that we're gonna get, like, that even if that was like everyone could do that, no issues, like it would become overbearing because it's like we're just watching all our friends play, but we can't give
yeah,
them the reaction that we would naturally do when that riff or breakdown kicks in. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm all for bands who are trying to find ways to like be adaptive and do new shit and try to at least keep this thing going. This podcast is an example of that, where I'm just trying my best to just feed the communication, so it's at least we can talk about hardcore, so that
yeah,
when
right.
we do get shows back, it's like it's not just like no one talked about the shit that they like about this for
Yeah, like
9
it's
months.
literally just like, you know, like pause type deal, you know. Um which I mean like I like it was like an idea that was like talked about like, but like then we were like why like, because we were gonna like probably like pay a friend to like, you know, sit there and like mix like everything, and then we were gonna pay another friend to like film it and stuff, and like we would have like gone out to like make it like is like visually like pleasing as we could have. But I just think like the feeling of like I could watch that shit on my phone, but like, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like that part's cool. Those guitars sound cool. The drum beats like badass. But like, it's just like, dude, it's just not the same like at all. And that's like the one like thing that sucks about it. You know?
Yeah, I do think like if every band like Big or Small has some kind of budget as far as like how much each member is, especially during this time where there's lots of people in both countries, Canada and the US, who are unemployed. But
Mhm.
every band has a little bit of a budget as far as like, okay, what we're pumping into. And I think, and this is just my take, do whatever the fuck you want. But if
Right.
there's if you I think people should just be writing and recording and putting out music, because
Definitely.
when I hear stuff in the midst of like this whole thing, it still gives me like, goosebumps to be like, oh man, I am so excited to one day, I don't know what day that is and I don't want to jinx it, but one day I'll be able to get to see this part live. And
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's a must when these bands get to play these songs and records that they wrote during quarantine or just before and released during. People have to mosh like 10 times harder, because it's like,
Yeah.
you owe it to those bands for keeping you going during this weird time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like the first show where it's not sketchy being around, a room full of people, and where you like, because like my friends, like some of them are like asthmatic and stuff, and like so they're very like vulnerable to COVID. But I think like once it I want to say if it, but I always like say like once it like clears up,
Yeah.
you know, then I I don't know. It's gonna feel like a hundred and fucking like 10% probably, man.
Yeah.
It's gonna feel like everything, like all the pieces have been put back together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
And I really think that, like, and at least I hope this is that people don't take hardcore and just live music in general for granted anymore. That, like,
Mm.
I definitely think that like shows of that nature, or of the nature that we're used to, is probably going to be one of the last things that's like given the green light. But
Mhm.
I hope that the kids who are just finding out about like new bands, and wanted to go to prom court, like you said, like that they just like have that first experience back, and it blows expectations like leading up to it, because
Yeah.
just people are like, I need to mosh for this riff, and
Yeah.
I'm tired, but this could be the last riff that I ever get to mosh to, because there's another pandemic coming that I don't know about. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
it was crazy because like, we like got home from LDB and it was just like all this shit started like happening. And I was like, who would have fucking thought? Like we were supposed to go to a show like a week from now. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just I remember like hearing about COVID like very like vaguely. Like me and Josh, when we were writing some stuff one day, like he had brought it up to me. He had seen something online about it and we like touched base about it and then like he was like kind of like over on edge on it. You know what I mean? Cause like I don't know why I wasn't at the time, but I just wasn't like really like thinking about it. And then like a week or two later, like it's just like, oh, the we're in a global pandemic, like everybody is losing their jobs and everybody is going through this and going through that. And it's been such a wild time, man, especially like also like witnessing all like the Black Lives Matter movement as well. You know what I mean? Like that like was just like so like surreal to like witness in person because it was like you're like fighting you're fighting back for like the shit. You know what I mean? Like and I think that is something that is just like amazing to witness in like person, like
yeah, I think like I can't remember if this is a tweet or some comment on a thread, but like, even though 2020 feels like the year that sucks at an absolute high, it potentially is the year that we needed, because COVID sucks, but COVID has exposed a lot of companies that are still employing their their they're putting their employees in different, that very difficult and dangerous situations. So it's like we can assess those people. Um,
yeah.
Obviously, uh, like all the stuff with the Black Lives Matter movement is like, yeah, there's a lot of like really hard discussions and things and realities that we've all looked in the mirror, but there's been a lot of good as far as, cities decreasing police budgets by millions and millions of dollars. Like, you know, and that's a continuing thing. Like, I'm sure there's going to be people that listen to this podcast potentially in like a few years, and they'll be like, yeah, like, look at all the changes that were made in 2020. Even
Exactly.
though we're living it, we're like, when will this nightmare come
Yeah.
to a close?
Yeah.
To kind of shift gears there, because I definitely wanted to touch on a couple things regarding Omen and your band.
Mhm.
What are you guys? So the latest thing that you guys did is you guys put out a single
Mhm.
called Void and did a little video for that. So what's the what are you guys working on right now? What's kind of the game plan with, I know some bands are like really like, yeah, let's put out as much music as we can. Some bands are like, oh, we want to push things out kind of closer to 2021 in hopes that we can tour on that material a little bit more
Mhm.
actively. But yeah, what do you guys have what are you guys cooking in the kitchen?
So the last like couple months, man, we've just been like writing a lot, and we finally finished. We actually started recording a new record last week.
Oh, okay.
Um, so we're doing that right now. Originally we were gonna go to Florida and record, but with like it's always like going back to everything happening, especially like COVID. We had like rescheduled that, and then when it came time to like talk about it again, we were just like, dude, like, we should probably just like stay home. We can record it here, have that person like get it mixed and mastered, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Um, yeah, we've just a lot of writing. I mean, most of us work full time, so we will more than likely get together. Like it's normally like pretty late at night. Um, but we've just we've been busting our ass. We got a new guitarist. That really doesn't. Yeah, it wasn't like a big announcement or anything, but it's our friend John.
You
Um,
added a guitar player. Is that right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, because
yeah, yeah.
I had a suspicion about that because I know that um, Cole, who does photos for Scoped, he did like a graphic of you guys, and I was like, there's five people in this photo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
just four.
Yeah, that was kind of like the I don't want to say announcement, but that was just like
The tease, the Easter egg.
essentially like, yeah, 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 like here, like take this, like this is all we can give you right now. But yeah, man, he joined I want to say like three months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. But he like drives up, so he lives 6.5 hours away from here. He lives in
Oh
Houston.
wow.
Yeah, so he'll come up like twice a month, and he'll stay up here for a week and then go back home. Uh, and we just like, I'll try my best to like take off work, as will Dakota and Josh and Tyler, and we'll just like take like a couple days to just like hurt our brains like trying to like structure things and like come up with different parts and stuff like that. But we finally finished the product that we are proud of. And I'm really excited. It's a lot different from like the older stuff that we did.
Okay.
Because all of like Nil, we wrote Nil with like a completely different lineup. And I was also like freshly like 17, I think, when we put that out. So it's definitely like a big step like forward. You know what I mean? So it's not as beat downy is what I like to say.
Sure. Okay.
But I mean it's still got the parts. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, the
we've
fight
got to
riffs and
yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is that something that you guys have a tentative timeline of when people can chew on that, or is that too still up in the air as far as
Um
record labels and mixing and all that?
yeah, right now it's just kind of like up in the air. It's been talked about, but I'm almost certain like before the end of the year for
Okay,
sure.
cool.
There's like a lot of stuff that we're like putting into it, visually as well, that we want to really like work with. And I know with like, other people's schedules and stuff, like it's sometimes hard to like get something like planned out.
Yep.
But um yeah, for sure before the end of the year. I'm hoping for that at least.
Yeah, well, I'm personally quite excited for that because I definitely saw the leap as far as from nil into the single that you guys did, and to think that naturally there's going to be a next evolution for that, but more
Yeah.
songs is always good by me.
Yeah,
Um, as far I did have one question here, and this might be totally random. It might be like a total like giveaway question. In your Instagram bio, you have the numbers 201320, and I don't know what that is. So I was like, oh, I'll just ask this. So whether it's
so that was just like something that me and Colton came up with. It's just kind of like our numbers, like if I'm ever like if I'm ever in a situation where like I like am in need of like dire help, like this is like the worst, like hypothetically, like say I'm like getting jumped or something and I can get to my phone and just be like 201320, like that mean like he'll know like what that means and he'll fucking like be like it's something like that. It's just kind of like yeah, like just like our shit. I don't
yeah,
know.
it's like not your safety word, but it's like something. If it's your secret code to be like,
Yeah,
yo,
exactly.
I'm in a
It was,
situation.
yeah, I mean, it was something that like we used to just like okay, so like people people would always say like when me and Colton were like first starting to like kick it and shit, like that we were like when we would mosh, like they called us the meanest team, right?
Okay.
And so from there, like T is, number 20 in the alphabet. And yeah, it like TNT type shit. Yeah, so 2013. That was how that came up. And then it just kind of like stuck and it's just kind of just been there since that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I was like, okay, is this something related to 2020, but 2013 is also a year in there? So I was just
Yeah.
like confused. I'm like, what is the secret message?
Yeah,
And
right.
and
Yeah,
it
I've
is
had
always
people.
funny because everyone will just have something weird association with a number that's not like in the normal realm of things. Like
Yeah.
I think for me, my favorite number has always been 99 because it was like the this is so silly, but it's like when I would play like NHL hits 2003 on my GameCube, that was just
Yeah.
the highest jersey number that I could have, and I didn't want to be like 5 or 22. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to be the highest, 99. And then
Yeah.
that's like, Gretzky, he was 99 for a bit, so it's like, yeah, the good players play 99 in my opinion.
Yeah. 99.
Plus, it's like I don't know, but as far as it is the highest two-digit number.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, I'm glad I know that or cracked that
Yeah, no,
code.
it was
Um,
it was definitely it was funny. Yeah. I've never had
you might have
anybody
to
ask
change
me
it now because if you're like in danger, they're like, oh, I know what you're sending to your friend, or someone's
about
gonna
like, well, I mean,
jokingly send you 201320.
yeah. Yeah, no, just like touching base on this like real quick. I've always like parked at like gas pumps, right? And it's always the number 7. I won't ever park like if I park at like number 10 or number 2 or any other number except for 7, I always feel like I'm gonna have like bad luck that day. Yeah. And that was just like 7 was like something between like me and like one of my like older like friends, like our group. And yeah, I don't know. It's like embedded into my
So what if
brain.
a gas station just does? They only go up to 6 pumps. You're just
And
like, oh, we gotta find another gas
yeah,
station.
then I'm not getting gas there.
Dude,
Straight up.
that's wild. That's
Yeah.
but everyone's got their weird things as far as like, nope,
Yeah.
this is how I live my life, and don't judge me on it.
Yeah. I've never had anybody else notice that though either. I don't think. But now they probably like I don't even think my girlfriend's noticed it, but I feel like now that I've said that, like she probably will.
Well, like if someone's in pump 7 and you're like you roll up behind them and then you're like, oh, there's a pump open there. You're like, no, it's got to be 7.
Nope. I'm waiting here. I'm sorry.
Dude, that is funny. I'm curious if anyone else listening or watching has a strange I don't know if that's a phobia necessarily, or if that's
I think
something of that
everybody's
nature.
got like their lucky number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's all that it kind of like. I think it's like, I don't know, like lucky number, and then it's like, like it's stuck to you like when you're like kind of like growing up a little bit, and it's just like if you see that number, like it catches your attention more than it would like another number. You
Yeah,
know what I
like
mean?
my wife, she played a lot of like soccer and basketball, and she was always like, "I need number 9 for her jersey." And anytime she got it, she always felt like the season was off or something was off about it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no judgment. Have your
Hey,
lucky numbers
yeah,
and live your life.
yeah.
So Skyler, we should probably wrap it up, but I'm sure the way we bookend these podcasts is a favorite mosh story. So that could be yourself. That could be just something that you saw, you breaking someone's nose, someone breaking your nose, whatever is first off the top of your head.
Man, there's just so many. I don't, uh, I don't know. I'm trying to like genuinely just like drag one out. There, there's just like never like not been a time. You know what I mean? Like there, like I never like, okay, like not necessarily a story, but like I've always like, and it's never intentional at all. Like I just, it's like a part of like what I wear. I would wear like steel toe boots when like mosh and stuff. Like at LDB, I had like my big ass like steel toe work boots on, and I was like cartwheeling off the stage and like fucking flipping onto people and shit. And like I wasn't even like thinking, like, one, because I was like drunk, you know what I mean, having a fucking blast. But like two, like I'm just like, these boots feel like they're just like, my Air Maxes. Like I don't know. That's like the best way to put it. I honestly wish I could just like drag out like a mosh story that just like stuck out to me. There's just, I don't know. There's not. I don't
Steel
know.
toes in the pit is a way to go out. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna try doing some barefoot stuff this next year.
Barefoot moshing?
Yeah, I was just kidding.
Oh,
There's absolutely no way, dude.
What's in the comments? What is worse, getting a steel toe to the dome or getting a stanky ass foot straight in the mouth?
Right, like letting the socks just like soak up all the sweat, and then you just take them off before the fest, dude.
Yeah, I am notorious. Just on the subject of feet, I am notorious for just like not smelling my feet, and then having other people call me out, being like, "Your feet stank."
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, I woke up one time. I can't remember what tour it was, but like I woke up one time and Tyler was like spraying like some foot spray into some of my shoes that I had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was because like he's like, I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that? And he's like, dude, your shit does not, it doesn't sit well. Like he's like, you're lucky I didn't throw it out the fucking window, bro. Like straight. Yeah, feet.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to end. Skyler, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm really excited to hear new Omen stuff. And, despite me probably not filming Promcore, because it seems like Sunny films that and they have a relationship, but it's definitely a fest that I want to go to eventually. And obviously, if I'm not filming it, I can hang out a little bit more versus like,
dude, yeah, come down.
I got to go. Yeah, definitely going to go and do that. Go listen to Omen. You guys have stuff everywhere, Bandcamp, streaming, what have you. Look for a new album for there. And thanks for the chats, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. I'll see you.